Okay. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Thank you. And this time we'd recognize any visitors that have anything they'd like to address the board with, but so this would be an opportunity on anything that's not on the agenda for today. And seeing none, next item on the agenda is approval of minutes for April 23rd, 2025, or discussion and review.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes as presented for April 23rd, 2025.
Motion to approve has been made. Discussion or second?
I second the motion.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. So the minutes for Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025 have been approved. And this is when we will start the public hearing session. And just a reminder, the Board of Adjustments is a quasi-judicial body, and any findings are final. But if there's any part that wants to be made, the circuit court can be filed within 30 days. So, and first on the agenda is City of Berea, Fairstown Community Center, 1620 Menelaus Road, and it's a request for a conditional use permit for a community center in an industrial I-2 Industrial Park District zone. And do you want to present some from your perspective, Amanda?
I will give just a little,
First, can we get you sworn in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. So the property address that we are considering is 1620 Menelaus Road. And just to give you some context on where this location is, because you probably won't find it on a map, I've outlined on the screen, the yellow is a proposed future Mady Road connector that will basically extend Mady Road to Menelaus Road. The lot that we are considering this evening is the purple. You'll see just a little purple dot there that shows the where the proposed site for the community center is. If you happen to have looked in your land management and development ordinance, you would see that community uses was not in your edition of the allowable land uses. So we have taken that to Planning Commission. It has gone through approval by the City Council, has been read by ordinance, and has been approved, just not reflected in the documents that you guys have. So what we did is we updated the city's regulations to have community uses such as this community center as a conditionally permitted use in an I-2 zone. So I did want to kind of set up that framework for how we got here today, and then the mayor will present on behalf of the city.
All right. Well, thank you. Here's your chance. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oh,
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board. Appreciate all of your service and for hearing us out tonight. Also for the professional staff for the work that you've done in preparation. I am here. My name is Bruce Fraley on behalf of the City of Berea to formally request conditional use in an I-2 zone at 1620 Menelaus Road for the construction of the Fairstown Community Center. I want to take you and give you a little bit of a story just to start to kind of tell you how we got here. Between the end of Mady Road and Menelaus Road as it comes out into Fairstown, there's about 87 acres altogether that's considered the Berea Industrial Park expansion. After we finished with the greenhouse, we started turning our attention to that particular area that had been property had been acquired, probably 20-plus different tracts over a 20-year period by the Gilberts and others that were working on that over the years. And we decided that we would consolidate all that to one boundary survey for the 87 acres. We did a development plan and started working on it. As some of that had to be rezoned, there was one parcel that wasn't even in the city. It never got annexed. We had to do that. Then we had to get all that classified as I-2. And as you know, part of that process is a public hearing. We had members of the Ferristown community who came to speak on that and others. And one of the concerns was that nobody really wanted industry coming right out in the middle of a historic African-American hamlet. And when we started looking at that, the right thing to do was to create a buffer, and create a buffer where you don't have a warehouse or an industry that comes right in the middle of this community, this historic community. Fast forward a little bit, I got to meet Aaron Banther, who's here tonight, and with his wife Jamie, and we started talking about historic preservation and the importance of the traditional historic African-American hamlets in Madison County, of which Ferristown is the most recognizable, maybe the only fully recognizable hamlet that's left, and that needs to be preserved. Aaron began doing an oral history on Ferristown, recording, and we started visioning on where would that oral history be stored? Where can we preserve the history of Ferristown and the community and the people? And then we started thinking about a building or a facility. Aaron's going to tell you a little bit more about that, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to ask you to recognize him shortly. But he's traveled all over interviewing descendants with video recording, and we envision having a place where someone could go 30 or 40 or 50 years from now and see those oral history interviews of their forefathers and people who came before them and the people from Ferristown, and learn a little bit or a lot about the Ferristown community and the importance to Berea, Madison County, and truly to the state of Kentucky. So that's kind of where the idea started churning. And then we started looking at a community center. We have a need for community space in Berea. This structure would be a little over 3,000 square feet, and it would be not only open to the Ferristown community, but to all of Berea. Also, as we looked at that, and as Aaron and I talked about it, to me, that's a good way for people to come and discover Ferristown that really don't know a lot about it. And it's a good way to bring people together, I think. That's when we started talking about it. Then we looked, well, how are we going to pay for it? We applied for a community development block grant, and we were approved. The maximum funding for a community development block grant is $750,000, and we got the maximum. It was a great project, and that was with the help of Aaron and Jamie, and also the Bluegrass Area Development District that did a lot of the heavy lifting to walk us through that process. Of course, when we got looking at it, Amanda said, you know, that's in an I-2 industrial zone, and then we looked at how we could best accommodate that, and the LMDO was modified by Planning Commission, recommended by Planning Commission and by Council to make this a community center as a conditional use potential in an industrial I-2 zone. So that's our request tonight, is to approve this. One more piece of information that I think you need is the Berea Industrial Park expansion is governed or managed by the Berea Industrial Development Authority, and the Berea Industrial Development Authority did deed that property back to the city. It's about 3 acres, and it does come out right at the end and kind of in the middle of the Ferristown community along Menless Road. We worked closely with Thoroughbred Engineering and their design team, an engineer, Jordan Haney, who we work closely with, and also one of their architects. And the rendering that you see is a rendering that we came up with that we think will fit with the architecture in the community and will be fitting for the area. Again, this will be used to house, and Amanda, I don't know if you can show the floor plan, but it'll be used to house the oral history that Aaron's worked on. Aaron also has artifacts and photographs and he's going to probably talk a little bit more about that, of the store and the church and the people. The people, that's what's important, is to document the history of the community and the people who live there and who are so important to our area. Also, you'll see that there is a big open area for meetings, conferences, family reunions, social gatherings, church gatherings, any place that people gather, you can use that, and it doesn't matter if you live in Fairstown or you just live somewhere in Berea. You can go there, use this new facility, and learn a lot about the Fairstown community and truly all of the African-American hamlets in Madison County. So, Mr. Chairman, that's our request, is for approval of the conditional use permit to allow the construction of this on approximately 3 acres. It will create a buffer between any industry and business in the Fairstown community, which is the right thing to do. Ultimately, you want to do the right thing, and that's what I think this is. Mr. Chairman, if you would be willing to recognize Aaron and Jamie Banther, they have founded a 501c3 that's Our Land of Promise, and if you're not plugged into that, I encourage you to do that, to follow their progress. They're doing amazing work in the community. They're bringing people together. I think probably, I can't speak for Aaron, but I think if he was looking at the one thing that he's trying to do with his work is to bring people together. There's a lot of other things that go into that, but again, he's done tremendous work with the oral history and preserving the history of Fairstown. Mr. Chairman? Aaron, Jamie?
Good evening.
We'll have to
Do I
get
need
you
to
sworn in, yeah.
Sorry.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Both witnesses have been sworn.
All right.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I had a long speech drawn out for this, but this is not the right setting, so I'm just going to go off the cuff. Aaron Banther, our founder of Our Land of Promise. This is my wife, Jamie Banther, co-founder. Just a quick story just about myself. I'm from Berea, grew up here. We both did. Madison Southern graduate. I graduated from Berea Community. I joined the Navy back in 1997. Halfway through my career, I was reading this book by Jacqueline Burnside. Some of y'all might have read it, Berea Black Heritage. And I'm reading this book, and I'm seeing a lot of history about this community that I'd never known before. And that really inspired me. So I said, if I ever came back, I was in Jacksonville, Florida at the time. If I ever came back to Berea, I would want to do what I could to preserve it. And God willing, got a job up here at the Bluegrass Army Depot as a contracting specialist, and I went to work. Before I really got into the weeds of things, it started with the news of the industrialization, the development of the Fairstown community. The citizens was concerned about that, about our safety, and not only that, but what the Fairstown community stood for. So that really prompted me to kind of get to work. Met Mayor Bruce Fraley and really establish a relationship, and he wanted to work with us to preserve the community, which I really greatly appreciated that. So where do we start at? And the answer was oral narrations. And I've traveled to Florida, I've been to Maryland, I've been to Ohio. A lot of people from this community, from the Fairstown community and Berea, both black and white, that knows everything about the history and the roads better than anybody in this chamber. And I've been doing that for the past 3 years. To my surprise, the community center came up, and what a blessing that was. We got 35 letters, I believe that was, letters of support to support the community center. So we just been doing grassroots work ever since then. We do cemetery preservation. Some of y'all that have been to Fairstown Middle School, you might have seen the Fairstown sign, "Welcome to Historic Fairstown." We've done that, and just very grateful for the work that we've been doing the past 3 years. It's been challenging, to say the least, but we're here, and we want to do our part to make this community better. And just celebrate diversity. Our Land of Promises organization we started, we're only a little over a year old, and our vision is, how do we bring people together to get to that line of promise where everybody has an understanding of each other, that we bring cultures together just through Black heritage and things. So just very blessed and very grateful. Some of y'all may have been familiar with the Berea Black Heritage exhibit. We partnered with the Berea Arts Council this past fall, and I tell y'all, it broke gallery records. If you was there opening day, you would have known, because you're shoulder to shoulder, and that should tell you something. It should tell you that folks in this community are really focused about togetherness and growing and really just coming together for all of Berea. As far as this community center, with your support, of course, we're working hard, our organization, to design internally through exhibits, oral narrations that we can have on display, and just have a place where people can come together and remember and cherish this community. So that's pretty much who we are in a nutshell. We appreciate your support. Do y'all have any questions for me?
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know if this 3 acres is part of the is that part of the Moss Ferris farm?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that used to be Moss Ferris's farm right there. Now, his wife, I encourage y'all to Google Mary Rice Ferris. Definitely, she'd be one of the ones included in the community center. She done a lot here for the community. Y'all may have heard of the Mary Workers Club. We'll include that. That was a group of ladies who done a lot of community work in Fairstown. These ladies took care of the Fairstown Cemetery while the husbands worked. They also took care of the sick and the elderly. So we definitely want to include things like that, the Baxter General Store, and just not just Fairstown, but other things in the community that we want to celebrate. So, yeah.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Any discussion? Mindy, do you want to remind us, there is some factors in approving a conditional use, right? In terms of, you mentioned that there was already in that zone, it's approved, but I seem to recall there's some others too. Oh, I think I got it.
Yeah, you might get it quicker than me, but let me.
Contributes to the well-being of the neighborhood. I don't think these would need to be identified in a motion, but no detrimental effects to the welfare of people in the area, nor cause of harm to nearby property. Alignment with zoning intent, or compliance with specific conditions in the zone, and I think that's all I see. Yeah. Well, I would entertain a motion or more discussion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit for a community center in an I-2 industrial park zone for the city of Berea for the Fairstown Community Center because it contributes to the well-being of the neighborhood.
Any discussion with that motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. So it is approved for a conditional use permit for a community center in an I-2 industrial park zone at 1620 Menelaus Road, since as it contributes to the well-being of the neighborhood? Okay, all right. Great, yeah, thank you. You bet. Next item on the agenda is a request for conditional use permit for self-storage facilities and an RV park in a B1 minor business district zone, 124 and 128 Spring Circle Drive. And I just want to say thank you all for coming in, and I'm really excited about what you're doing. Great. All right. You want
Okay.
to tee us up?
So we are considering in this request 124 and 128. So this is going to be the vacant land, and I'm going to just kind of hover. It is really kind of this section. If you'll see on your plat, actually, let me do this. Let me turn on some parcel lines. Slight adjustment here, and you will see that 124 is this parcel. It does have frontage along Spring Circle Drive. And this parcel adjacent to it at 128, which actually extends out to the interstate right-of-way. Both of these tracts are currently zoned B1, and in our allowable land use table, So we're considering two things this evening: storage facilities, self-storage facilities, which are conditionally permitted, and RV park, which are both. So for that particular listing, we looked at recreational areas that are conditionally permitted, and private recreation, which are conditionally permitted in an R1.
So Amanda, just to clarify, RV park is different than RV parking. It wouldn't be a place where one would store their RVs. It would be a place where you would go with your family to be overnight? in an
And I
RV?
think they can explain the intent probably a little better than I can.
And that is a wonderful question. Corey Isaacs, Isaacs Law Office, 218 West Main Street, Richmond, Kentucky. Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yeah.
May I?
Proceed.
So that is a wonderful question. And when looking at this and working with Ms. Haney, the description of usages are not abundant. What we're trying to do doesn't necessarily meet this or that in particular. There are a ton of folks that come to this area of the world to work, and they work and then they travel. They get a per diem every day. And that per diem would take care of a hotel, but they rather have an RV. A lot of people that work for KU, for example. So they'll come here and then they spread out east and west. Because, you know, we're on I-75, we're a hub. And we can go there and there, either west or east, to be honest with you. And we have the opportunity at this point to park an RV and live out of it for a short period of time. That's what we're looking at. This area in particular, as it's currently zoned, we could do duplexes, sure. We could do townhouses, the single-family residences, et cetera. This is weird. The line here is extremely gerrymandered because, you know, you go back in time, I-75 wasn't there. It was all farm. I-75 came through and split farms up. And now we've got a very unique parcel of land that isn't quite desirable for a lot of different usages that are permitted. I don't have to ask you for permission, you know, but it is what it is. However, what we are proposing, what we're asking you for permission to do, is quite simply do some storage and then put in electrical units and allow these folks to come in, park that RV. And it's, when I think of an RV, it's the one in Christmas Vacation. You know, it's the one that you drive. That's typically not it. It's the one you pull behind your truck. Park it there. They work for 4 and 5 months at a time, then they leave. And it does bring a benefit to the community, but they gotta have a place to put it. This is a weird area. It's not quite residential, being so close to the interstate. It's not as desirable for that effect. You know, to put an apartment right there next to the interstate, it's not as desirable. However, your comprehensive plan does say we want to use land, right? We want to use land for the best benefit that we can. The same plan says that, you know, the park and the storage, I've got to ask your permission. The storage units themselves, well, people come there once a month maybe. And then the RV, well, yeah, they will be in and out. However, if you look to the north, you've got single-family residence. On the left of your screen, you've got multifamily, you've got multiple duplex apartment scenarios. It won't add any travel other than what's already there. You know, it's not gonna change this dynamic of the neighborhood. And it will also give the best use. So, Ms. Haney, if you can, kind of scroll down a little bit. To the front, there you go, thank you.
Maybe.
Maybe. Oh, well, the best thing about technology is it is what it is.
While she's doing that, can I just get a clarification? Is this request for both uses for both lots?
Correct.
Okay.
Because
All right.
there is a power line and a gas line that really limits what we can do there. And my client's gonna come up and he'll give you a little bit more, well, that sure as heck ain't it.
There we are.
That's where you are.
Yeah.
You are here.
Ultimately, the parcel is a little bit over 3 acres. It's kind of one of those scenarios, what do you want me to do with it? We want it to be used. This scenario gives an opportunity for use. We avoid a gas line and the power transmission line that's overhead. And we're gonna give limited travel. That's important to me. When you can justify use, well, it's not Walmart. It's not gonna bring in multiple people a day. It's only 3 acres. And we're gonna have to come back to you and ask permission for each one of those utilities and how we do that with a plan. And then you'll have the opportunity to say, well, nope, that's too many. We don't want that much. And that's important, because, you know, we don't wanna fit in 100 different power outlets and sewer, et cetera. You're gonna have the ability, or the city, I should say, will have the ability to say no. But the use for this, it's a very weird scenario here because it is commercial, but then it does kind of touch some residential. And this use limits travel, this use limits the idea that we're going to cause anybody that lives there a bother, especially with the storage. Storage limited. Not a whole lot going on with storage. Yes, ma'am?
So how many storage units are you looking at?
So, I mean, of course, we're gonna put as many as is appropriate, but that's a question that gets answered by another body after we get the opportunity to say we can. We still have to come back with a plan, and that plan has to be approved.
Right.
Ultimately, on this, you can't do much with it. Just the way it's kind of gerrymandered around, you can't do much with it. We still have to have a road. In the event that there's 50 little bitty storage units, I'd be quite surprised. If there are a dozen large units, I would be equally surprised. The land just doesn't give us that. However, we've got to get through this phase first and then come back with a plan. And to be honest with you, that plan costs money.
Right.
And he's got to pay somebody, not me, to draw it up and say, this is what it would look like. That's still got to be approved.
Right. So then what about the RV park? How many would be going in there?
So when I look at it on the big scheme, if there's 12, I would be blown away. I doubt we get in 12. Hopefully we do. Hopefully. However, it would be unfair for me to say that we get 12. More realistically, if it's less than 10, not surprised. And what the expectation is for these folks that are working and traveling, and they're there for 3 months at a time, and then they leave. It's not a campground where they come in one day, set up a tent. Well, would you set up a tent there? That's not, it doesn't really make sense. This is more of a scenario of, yeah, they're gonna stick around for a month.
But it's going to be advertised, correct?
Well, I assume so. Yeah, I mean,
So,
I wouldn't tell you no.
It's potential that other people besides people that are going to be living in the RVs for like 3 months would stay there.
If I told you no, I'd lie to you. Yeah, it's possible. However, in the same token, I would like to say it's not very plausible, right? It's not a campground, as in when I take my kids camping and I go out to the river.
Right.
And it doesn't give you that same feeling. You're looking across the street at a apartment complex.
So I'm just
That
thinking,
need.
well, I'm
is
also
over there.
thinking of that road. You know, can it handle an RV?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, right now, I could put duplexes there.
Yeah, I know.
And they
But I'm
could
just
travel
talking about an
to and fro
RV.
every day.
I'm just talking about an RV, you know, a big, long RV on that road.
Yeah, I've been down the road. I went and looked at it myself. No problem.
Okay.
Especially with the cul-de-sac there. Cul-de-sac's probably the answer to your question. There's plenty of room
Okay.
there. And you know, the idea that yes, it could happen, fair. It's a fair question. But it's not where you take the kids to go make s'mores. It's not your camp out. Nobody's gonna put up a tent there. And to be honest with you, if you wish to give me some rules, some restrictions, fair. No overnight camping. That's not what we're looking at anyway. No overnight camping, I doubt my client would have a problem with that, which he's gonna testify to, but that's not what we're looking at here.
Okay.
And, which is a very fair scenario, because you don't want a ton of travel in and out, but in the same token, all those apartments, they come in and out every day. So even if they did camp out, right? Well, everybody else is camping out at their house every single night. So the travel wouldn't be burdensome, right? It's the same thing that's happening, period, every single day for all those folks that live there. And I expect that it's gonna be far less than that. You don't camp out next to the interstate, you know?
Have you received any comment from people nearby?
We have not, and all notices were sent as required.
Okay.
It appears that there is access being utilized through sticks and stones. Is that gonna stop, or?
Well, we don't know, to be fair. We don't know. And my client can testify to that.
Okay,
Ultimately, right now, my client owns, as you look at it, everything along the interstate side. Yeah, he owns all of that.
okay.
But that operates as a business. And if he wants to allow people to go down the road, fair. But he's gonna have to testify to that. I can't really tell you. Ultimately, though, land should be used, and other than just, I could, you know, come in and throw up a ton of duplexes there. It's less use than a duplex. Less use than that multifamily, right? Less travel, less road usage, less bother to the community that already existed. We're allowed to do that already under the current zone. What we're proposing is far less than that. Far less. If, say I do get 10 of those RVs approved, it's one person going to 10 total, right? There's more than 10 in that first building. The first building there, actually, you can see some of the cars. It's less of travel, it's less of a burden. This one makes sense. It's less, however, the comprehensive plan tells me that I have to ask your permission.
I have another question for you. The Sticks and Stones property,
Mhm.
it's its own parcel with its own address, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you give me the number for that?
I can't,
Or-
my client- may-
102, okay,
May I go ahead and call my client up?
sure.
Sure, yes, we'll get,
Mr. Klein, come on up.
Mr. Klein, we'll have to have you sworn in, yep.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Mr. Klein, Ms. Haney, if you'll help me, I'm not great at this. This area here, that's 102. See that?
Yes.
Is that yours?
Yes.
All right, what do you do there?
We're a landscape supply.
Okay, so what is there?
Decorative gravel, mulch, compost.
Is there a building there that serves as an office?
Yes.
Okay. And then, Ms. Haney, if you'll come down to 100, as it comes all the way down to Spring Circle, all this side, that's what we're talking about here, right? You own that as well.
I do.
All right, it goes all the way back. What's there?
It's just a gravel lot.
And what else is there?
Some plants, quarried stone from Clover Bottom, shipping container for storage.
Right now, if you would also, Ms. Haney, at 124 and 128. That's what we're here about, right? And
Correct.
That meanders all the way back down to the interstate. Right?
Yes.
Am I correct? So where is it that you anticipate that we're gonna have some RV and then some storage units as well? Storage units on, 128,
Yes.
some RV on 124,
Yes.
that may meander into 128 as well, depending upon approval from the city,
Correct.
right? And this area, it's 3 acres and some change.
Yes, I do believe.
The plat is a part of your package as well. You'll see it.
I apologize, I'm not sure we caught all that on recorded record, but we've got our, so,
Sorry.
that's okay. I had a question, Ms. Haney, about if it is not overnight, would the would the conditional use require a statement of an RV park as opposed to conditional for storage only? I'm just thinking RVs are often at storage facilities, so.
So I think that specific question is, and just to make sure I'm understanding.
Yeah,
We are not considering, we are not making the request to be, because oftentimes, storage facilities will also store RVs.
Got it.
I think that's the biggest question or concern. That is not the, request here.
okay.
It is for, so I couldn't, and I guess I need to make sure with him. Are we seeking the storage of so if I own an RV and I'm not using that this month, can I store it on your lot? Will
I
that?
think that'd be a very fair question, first off. But yeah, why not? You can park your RV there. However, there's a different use when you're talking about, I park my RV there and I'm not using it. I'm not staying there.
You're actually staying there.
And then, hey, that's my home for the next couple months as I work in this region. Very different things, right?
Yeah, so what we've done oftentimes with the storage of boats and RVs, because that almost always comes with many warehousing, many storage facilities,
Especially those that are
self-storage
right off the interstate.
facilities, many of those just down the street from this will often have space for people to park and store their RVs and their boats. In my opinion, that becomes part of that storage lot. Again, those things kind of come in pairs. That's what we've seen in the past anyway, at least for those facilities in Berea. If you've looked at any of them, most of them will have storage units and just parking. The way that we've dealt with those in terms of how we approve those, we don't allow gravel parking lots. Lots of people want to just gravel a parking lot and let people park their boat or RV on that. Our regulations don't allow that. So how that has been allowed in the past is, as part of the development plan for the storage buildings, there would be that request before planning commission to allow just a certain portion of the lot to be gravelled for that particular storage. So again, I would look at that parking of that as part of the storage building use. Now, in terms of the RV hookups, because that's really what we're talking about.
Of course. Yeah.
It's just a hookup
Got it.
for someone to bring their RV in, park it, whether it's overnight,
I
2
see.
days, 2 months. Again, I think the idea is that it would not be, we have campgrounds in the area. Sounds like that's really not the intent to provide those amenities, as would be provided at any other campground. Am I?
To say it's a campground, that's the only thing that we can find within the plan that's remotely close to what we're asking for. They're not making s'mores. They're going to their home for the next couple weeks.
So we saw that, come up with, the Army Depot, so when they were building the plant, we had lots of folks come from Alabama, all kinds of places, come to work in this region. And, lots of folks do, I will say, we have run into that quite a bit, where we have folks who want to bring their camper, don't wanna live out of a motel. So I think that's the request, it's more about
Absolutely.
storage
Yeah.
and as one kind of whole, and, RV, hookup. maybe we
Correct,
should-
correct. If the plan was more detailed and gave us the opportunity to describe it in this way, I don't think I'd be here. Just, that's not what the plan said. And I've got to come to you anytime the plan doesn't give me a permissible use that gives me all that. That's why we're here.
So am I clear that if it was approved with no overnight camping, that is
wouldn't-
a consideration that you would?
He's not gonna deal with overnight camping. Please, if that is something that would encourage you to grant this, no problem.
So it'd be
We're not looking for that.
daytime hookup use?
We're not looking to allow somebody to camp there. And to be honest with you, nobody wants to camp there. You know, if I take my little boy camping, it's not next to the interstate. So that's not what we're intending to talk about. However, yeah, it could be an option, sure. Tell us it's not an option, we agree with you. We don't want overnight, we don't want that. So sure, please and thank you.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I had a question for you
Please.
all. When we're talking about the RV hookups, the 12 sites, are we talking about full water, sewer, and power, or are we going to have a dump station for the sanitary?
Full thing,
Okay.
we're able to tie in.
I see the sanitary line running through that property, so you'll, right,
That's what ruins it, to be honest with you.
understood,
If not, I'd tell my client, hey, throw up a couple 12 plexes.
correct.
With the way the power transmission is and the sewer, he's quite handcuffed, to be quite honest with you. But this is a great use for an area that's right next to I-75 that doesn't affect the neighborhood. I think it's the best thing he can do with it, to be quite honest with you. We've discussed that, what can we do with it, what can we not do with it? Well, you're not gonna get Walmart in there, you're not gonna get Dollar General in there. You do have neighbors, and this is the most akin to the neighbors' usage. Neighbors' usage is way more. They're coming in two cars per door all day. This is far less than that, I think. And I think it makes sense that it's less.
I also had a question. As far as the types of RVs or campers that would be allowed on here, I understand that they would be there for a certain amount of months at a time, and there's definitely a need for that type of facility in this area. I understand that. But as far as will there be any restrictions on permanent dwellings there, as far as like an RV that was disabled, the wheels taken off, and more or less became part of the okay, understood.
Absolutely not. They're not welcome. And we'd be tickled to death if that's something that will encourage a yay vote to this. Nobody's allowed to say that forever. Agreed. One of them there forever. It's a gerrymandered little tract that you go back in 100 years and I-75 wasn't there. It was a part of the farm that was on the other side. And this is what we've got remaining. And my client will testify, like, there's a problem in this area. A lot of different tents pop up, a lot of individuals who don't have a permanent dwelling. they find themselves there. It's right off the interstate. There's a gas station there. He's fussing about what he has to clean up all the time. This will help us, help my client, and I believe it would help the city, to be honest with you. Clean it up, you know, when you have people coming in that respect it, and, well, no, I'm here for the next couple months. It will help clean up. And especially if you, saying if you'll help me, actually, you can see it on that border here. And on this side that you're mad at. That tree line going from here down, yeah, full of folks. He's operating a business out of the front part. And we have to clean up stuff, you know. It's part of it. It's part of being a business person. It's part of being right on the interstate, and you know, there's a gas station right down the road. You can feed yourself for a little bit of money. Part of it. But what we're asking to do, in my mind, is less than permitted usage for travel and interference with what's already existing. And I find that it's in the best use of a tract of land that literally touches I-75. And, you know, if you'll have more questions, Mr. Klein's already been sworn in.
Yep.
He can answer the better part of those.
I do want to make one comment as it relates to our city regulations. So we talk, so in our land management and development ordinance, it talks about recreational vehicles. And it gives a KRS statute, so we know exactly which vehicles we're talking about. Within the city limits used for habitation over 7 days. So this is trying to prevent people from permanently living in these residences. And I thought this might be important to this conversation because this is something that we already have in place. So it says over 7 days, so this is uses prohibited in all districts. This is not allowed. Recreational vehicles within the city limits used for habitation, so it's your permanent home, over 7 days, except in a conditionally approved commercial location, so that's why we are here. Recreational vehicles in an approved, now the terminology says campground, but recreational vehicles in an approved campground shall not have any decks, porches, or permanent appurtenances, and shall only be permitted to stay in an approved campground for a period of 90 days if used as a primary residence. Now, that is something that we probably need to discuss in terms of time frame, because that's certainly something that the board could put a condition on. We could extend, it could be shortened, but I think it may be important for us to define a time frame. I think the idea is that there are instances where folks are using these RVs, which are meant to be, again, really kind of transient, stayed in, if you want to say it that way. I think the intent from a city perspective, or the concern from a city perspective, would be, we want these to come in, we want people to stay there, we want people to have the things that they need while they stay there, but we want them to eventually leave, and someone else to come in and it not be their forever home, right? And that's what the intent of this was. So I thought it might be important for me to bring that up as well.
So there out there prohibits the overnight camping, right? And then the other aspect is sometimes these guys come in and they work, it's seasonal. So come winter, they'll leave, you know?
But that's not their permanent residence.
No,
though.
their home is their home. It's
Their
where their
home
kids
is
are. It's
somewhere
where
else.
their spouses are. That's home, but they're staying there so they can go to work and provide that permanent home for their spouse and their children.
What's the longest period of time you think they're gonna stay?
Well, it would be unfair for me to say that they won't be there for 6 months, because a couple of those months they leave, and they don't take it with them.
A lot of guys go home on the weekend.
They go home on the weekend, you know, they're going home. They're here to make sure they can pay their mortgage at their home. So it would be unfair for me to tell you that they won't be there for 6 months at a time. But are they there 6 months at a time? No. But they're not gonna hook up and haul off. No, there's a convenience element to this. They go home on the weekends. The weekends they get off, they go home. They need to see a little boys.
I'm just wondering how long that they would need to actually stay there. You know, forget that they're going home on the
Right.
weekends.
How long that RV gonna be there?
Right.
I mean, if it's there a year, I'm blown away. But if it's there 6 months, I'm not. It's just the type of work that
Right.
these folks are doing. So if you're looking to put a cap on me, how long it can be there, I'd ask you not to do it for 6 months, because they're gonna work there for 6 months at a time, and then they move.
Okay.
But to say it's less, I don't want to. I'm not going to tell you something that's not true. You know, yeah, they can be there for 6 months. Are they there for a year? No.
I'm remembering out on Highway 21, the mobile home park. I think a conditional use was approved for what we're talking about here.
Which campground?
A little different in that it was really intended for those folks, for it to be their permanent.
That's right. Yeah.
And really where this came in is that we didn't, where this particular regulation came in, well, one, it was there for a long time because of, in the attempt to not let someone just bring an RV on my lot, let them hook up and live in my backyard forever. So that's where the 7 days kind of, I think, originated. And then, fast forward, some language got added, and that was the attempt where we had folks who, on 21, you are allowed to build a porch on it, live in it permanently. We had that hearing, we set those conditions, that was allowed. But then in some other, what I would call more transient type campgrounds, there were folks who were residing there for longer periods. And I will say, maybe that's because we didn't have something like this where they could stay a little longer, right? So, I think there's a little nuance in each of these that is just a little different, which is the biggest reason why we bring it here to consider these facts.
That's why it's a conditional, right? It is different. This isn't normal. You know, you don't see this every day. However, if you all have any more questions, happy to fill them.
Oh, I do have a question. This just occurred to me. Would the owner be amenable to allowing people that are temporarily displaced? I'm thinking about the tragic tornadoes that just ripped through Somerset and London, and the FEMA temporary housing. I know that the governor has kind of requisitioned, I guess it's Levi Jack? Jenny Wiley, yeah, and allowing FEMA trailers in there with the hookups just to give these folks a place to settle and regroup for a little while. Would that be
I
an
think that would depend
option?
upon what you allow us to do.
Okay.
He wouldn't say no to that.
Right, and that,
However, if we're only permitted to have occupancy of certain extents, we'd come back to you and say, hey, we're doing this. It's a tragic scenario. But yeah, very plausible, extremely plausible. And to be quite honest with you, I doubt there would be availability, because the people that fix that stuff are the ones that would be there in the first place. place. However, in the event that there was occupancy available, right, what would you not? What would you not? I'm the criminal prosecutor in Estill County, and Estill County has been ravaged over the last couple of years by flood. FEMA's came in, and they've helped tremendously. We have put those mobile shelters anywhere. We've had them in parking lots, and sure, I guess is the answer. Please, you know,
Right.
why not?
Right. I was,
However, the folks that fix those things, their chainsaws would stay there. That's what we're talking about.
I was just considering that in light of the, I mean, it just seems like we're getting more and more really bad storms, weather events, and we do need places for both the utility workers and possibly displaced people to have a place to stay. Just
Eastern Kentucky in particular has been absolutely ravaged, to such an extent that the federal government has had to step in and provide assistance, and it's still not enough. This is a place where the people that fix it would stay.
No, if someone wants to make a motion, or if there's any discussion, one thought that's coming to mind is like what potential specific conditions might want to be a part of that motion.
And by statute, it's nothing less than 7 days, right, Ms. Ann? We're not talking overnight. Not allowed. We're not even talking a week. We're not allowed. Here, it's an extended stay.
Well, now, let me clarify. So that's 7 days, it says, except in a conditionally approved commercial
Right,
location.
so that's why I'm here.
Mhm.
And we don't want people showing up overnight. But if KU needs to dump a handful of people to go fix something, this is an appropriate place. I'm gonna ask for a motion and a second to approve it as the storage and RV park.
Any,
With whatever conditions you wish to place on us. I mean,
Yeah.
we're amenable to anything. I think everything we've discussed, we agree to. Your condition, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, we don't want that. We agree.
open to a motion as well?
Just as a recommendation,
Hmm?
I'd like to recap some of the things that I heard, that the board members may want to consider for, conditions. One would be, no overnight camping, no permanent or no permanent parking or inoperable
Agreed.
vehicles. So that tends to be a way for us to deal with those, unsightly type
Agreed.
instances.
We don't want that.
Mhm.
So, from a staff perspective, I think we would appreciate a mechanism by which we could, I don't think the intent is to store broken down RVs. But again, it's helpful to have a mechanism that they have to be tagged and operable, or licensed and operable, however you say that, and, not in a state of disrepair. Is really the bigger intent.
If a motion was made that included that, nothing inoperable, no permanent structure, no overnight, we don't want any of that. We don't want it. That's not the intent of that.
And on the other end, we've had a lot of talking. Was there something about a limit, a maximum number of days?
we did discuss maximum number of days, so that would be at the board's discretion if the board wanted to set a condition
Right.
for a maximum time limit. I would probably not to exceed 1 year, not to exceed a certain amount of
Not
time
to
that,
exceed a year would be very
that,
reasonable.
that the board would think would be acceptable.
I think 6 months, you know, sometimes it takes longer than that. I don't think 6 months would be fair to accomplish that resident's goal through their employer.
Okay.
Thank y'all.
Oh, thank you. Open to a motion if there's, or any further discussion. Any other concerns or questions?
I do have one question. We have both storage and RV park. And those, you would like to see those be either on 124 or 128, not RVs on 124 and the storage is on 128. Is that correct?
Correct, because we still have to go through planning with a plan and showing what it would look like. And given the gas line and the overhead power line, it would be unfair for me at this point because I'm not going to advise my client to spend the money to have that drawn up.
Yep.
It's got to be approved next in the event that this is passed.
Okay.
So it would be for both, to be accurate. To answer your question, both. Just because we don't know.
I thought we had discussed that 6 months would probably be an acceptable time frame, but I'm going back to Andrew's point. If some of the people in the tornado were displaced, then that would take, up to a year. Otherwise, if there were none of those people, then I had heard that 6 months would be acceptable.
I don't believe that 6 months would be fair because from what I've seen in the history, it is they go home in certain times of the year because if they show up here in July, they can't work in certain months due to weather. They can't fix it. The flood's up right now. Right now, you go down to the Green River, they will not release the lock to allow the flood waters to drain. They still have 90 more days. And right now, on the Green River, the entire dock is flooded, all 2 portions. So they're stuck.
I think we're talking about two different things.
Please.
What I'm talking about is the people who are coming here to work,
They're going to go home to their families and leave that vehicle
Right.
here. They're not going to occupy that vehicle, but they're going to go home.
Denise, I understood, and just, Corey, if you would just clarify that, I understood you to say that you thought 6 months would be,
That's what we expect. However, it's not fair to say that it would take longer. I think a year is more than acceptable. I think by the time a year expires, they're gone. They're on to the next disaster. But to say 6 months, I think stay there for 6 months. And I don't want to tell you anything. I don't want to set myself or my client up for anything that's not going to happen. 6 months, they may be there for 6 months. And to say that they have to leave after the expiration of that 6 months, their job may not be over. I think at a year, they got to go. I think that's more than fair. But for me to say that at 6 months, the job is complete, I think a lot of these are taking more than 6 months.
consideration might be a number of months between 6 and 12.
And that's fair. I think that's realistic. How's that?
All right. So we've discussed some considerations, and I think we're open to a motion. And I mean, if we can't come up with a motion, I don't think this has happened before, but I suppose we could table it until next Board of Adjustments meeting, but it'd be nice to make some decision.
I would encourage a motion. There's no one here from the community that has said anything negative. This is a good thing. The property is unique just because of how it lays and the proximity to I-75. Your plan dictates that property should be used. Right now, it's not. It's a homeless camp. What we're asking for is the ability to use it and what my client believes is the most appropriate use. Like I said, I mean, I can put duplexes there now. This is less.
I would be willing to go to 9 months, but not a year.
More than fair. More than fair. And there does need to be some, you got to leave at some point, right? 9 months, fair. More than fair. Please and thank you.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion that we approve a conditional use permit for self-storage facilities in an RV park in a B1 minor business district zone at 124 and 128 Spring Circle Drive, with some conditions that there are no inoperable or disabled RVs to become permanent, no overnight camping, no more than 9 months. Anything else, Katie?
Any further, the motion
Well-
has been made. Is there any other discussion on that motion?
No, okay.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries for the approval of a conditional use for a self-storage facility and RV park in a B1 minor business district zone with, I heard 3 conditions. No inoperable or permanent or disabled, thank you, RVs, no overnight camping, and not to exceed 9 months time.
Thank
Okay.
you all. I mean, and the discussion is amazing. The thought process that goes into this is important. And I thank you all for that. I mean, it needs to be had. Thank you all very
Yeah,
much.
I appreciate it. Thank
If I
you.
may be excused as well.
Absolutely, thank you.
Mr.
Motion.
Chairman, I would
Yes.
like to make an announcement before we adjourn, please. So I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention that the city we are kicking off our 2025 comprehensive plan tomorrow evening. And so tomorrow evening at the Berea Gallery and Event Center will be our first public input session. So we would encourage any citizens to come out. This is an opportunity for us to engage citizens to look at what the next 10 to 20 years in Berea looks like. So this year's plan is called Berea Beyond. Your town, your plan, Berea's future. And that's exactly what we want, is for people to come and be involved and tell us, give us input so that we can focus on those areas of concern. And again, tomorrow evening at the 633 Chestnut Street, right next to the pavilion, we'll have some booths set up, so it'll be a come and go. But please come, ask your friends to come, tell people about it, and I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. Motion to adjourn. All in favor? All right, thank you. Thank you all.